What's up, Power Ranger fans? It's Monday, and you know what that means. Well, I wish I could say every Monday was like this, but it is for the next month, so that's all that matters to me. Anyway, it's Morphinominal Monday here on Play Renegade, Renegade's Twitch streaming channel. I am today painting... Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Today I am painting In Space Yellow, Power Rangers In Space Yellow. Yellow is actually a really difficult color to paint. And before I get into that, I did find some music, I think, hopefully, that ends up being okay. But let me know if you can hear the music, if it's too loud or not loud enough, because I hear it differently than you hear it. But if you can't hear it at all, then I guess that works too, because at least I can listen to it. I'm joking. No, I am not wearing a hat today. It's a little warm in the basement, in the man cave in the studio, so I'm rocking no hat, and I have the fresh cut today. So yeah, so that's what's happening. I'm Daddy Louie. You can find all my content over on youtube.com/Circle of Nerds. Please go over there and subscribe to that channel. Really means a lot to me and helps me out tremendously. Thank you, as always, to Renegade for having me on stream today. Nowhere else I would rather be. I am going to jump right down here to the table. I kind of like this view. You can see all my junk and stuff. But let's go down to the table here, and we will take a look at this In Space Yellow Ranger. There she is in all her glory. Yeah, so as I was saying in the beginning of the stream, yellow is actually a very difficult color to paint. It's a color that a lot of people struggle with because most of the paints come in a very thin type paint, and therefore it takes a lot of coats to get through. Also, certain shades don't end up showing up the way that people want them to. Long story short, yellow sucks. So I have a small trick. I've used this on the channel before, so if you are not new to what we do here, you'll be very familiar with my yellow technique. And it's really no secret. It's using contrast paints. So contrast paints are a Games Workshop thing, and some people love them, some people hate them. I personally am indifferent, except for a few different colors, one of which being yellow. Yellow is one of the best that Games Workshop puts out, and you will see why right now. So the yellow that I'm going to be using here is Eondon Yellow. Eondon Yellow, I guess that's how it's pronounced. You want to make sure that your contrast paints are stirred up really well, and we are going to be quite messy with this. We're not going to, but I am going to use my pro brush. I'm not going to use a shade brush because there are some parts I do not want to get yellow on. Specifically, I don't want to get yellow really on the boots, although with contrast paints, it is, like I said, it's kind of sloppy, so it is a little bit harder to control. So I may get yellow on the boots, and that's okay because we're going to end up going over them anyway. But the parts that are going to be white are the parts that we do not want to get yellow on. And that's pretty much standard for white, right? We've primed this in Wraithbone, which is an off-white color. And you really, when you're putting your base colors on, you do not want to get your base colors on the white if you can help it, because white is, especially with darker colors, it's hard to get that white back. The belt is also white. Again, I'm not super duper concerned about it because we're using yellow, and yellow's not If we were using black or something like that, I would be a little more concerned because covering up black with white is horrible. But this is just yellow, so I'm going to be pretty liberal with this stuff. Like I said, slopping it on. Controlling the pooling. See, I've already gotten a little bit on those boots there. Again, that's perfectly fine. I was a little nervous. I primed the model today. I meant to do it yesterday. But yesterday it was really hot out, and so I just didn't want to risk primer issues. And then I went out today and primed it. It was much cooler, still a little humid, but much cooler. And the primer was actually sweating as it was drying on the model. And that made me really nervous because I didn't want issues like I had last week. But it seems so far to not be a problem. Contrast paints are normally do best with a light primer, white or this Wraithbone. Wraithbone supposedly, according to GW, was specifically designed to work best with contrast paints. Of course, I use it for everything, but so Wraithbone and their other contrast primer, which is called Gray Seer, is another one. Now, I can already imagine someone will ask the question, well, couldn't you just prime the whole model in yellow? And you absolutely could. If you have a yellow primer that you like, you totally could do that. One thing that is nice about doing this contrast paint with contrast paint the way that we're doing it is that it also is putting our wash on the model as well. We're not going to have to use a wash because, as you can see, it's settling nicely in some of those recesses. And you want to move the paint around before it dries. I didn't do that there on that leg, and therefore it's going to splotch on me, which is not best. Again, I did get some music. I hope that it works this time. I've had issues with music in the past. If you can hear the music and the volume is perfect, let me know. If it's too loud, let me know. Not loud enough, let me know. Basically, just let me know how the music is coming in for you guys. It was hard to test earlier when I set it all up. So I personally think it's at a good volume, but I don't know. So again, I'm just moving this contrast paint around the model, trying to avoid as best as possible the spots that are not going to be yellow. The shoulders, the strap around the chest to back area with the colored squares. But again, if I get yellow in spots that I don't want, that's okay, because we are definitely not perfect. We're just doing the best that we can here. Can't hear any music. All right, that's what I was afraid of. So let's turn it up a little bit. You should hear it now, according to my OBS anyway, but I don't know. It may be a Twitch thing. Twitch is hating me still and not letting me play music. That is entirely possible. I'm not worried about getting contrast on the parts that are black or silver or anything like that, because this color will cover up very nicely with just about any color except white. Yeah, I can just about hear it now. My laptop is quiet, even on max, so it just might be on your end. Alright, maybe somebody else will let me know. The idea is that you primarily hear me, but then when I stop talking because I'm focused or I run out of things to say for a minute, then there's some nice background. So it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be fighting me for your attention. It should just be there. Okay. So her weapon, I think, is also yellow. I had a picture of it, a nice little picture. Yeah, it looks like most of it is yellow. So we're just gonna go ahead, except for the pull string there is silver, so. The one thing that does stink about using contrast paints, especially when we are painting the way that we are on a stream where we're trying to get as much done as possible in a short amount of time, is that contrast paint does take a few extra minutes to dry compared to something like a wash. A wash is usually like 5 minutes or less, whereas a contrast paint could be 10 to 20 minutes depending on how you layer it on. So I'm doing the best that I can to make sure that there's no pooling that would take a couple extra minutes. Yeah, and we'll do more touch-ups and stuff like that as needed. Honestly, all things considering, that actually was a pretty phenomenal job at not getting too much of the yellow onto the model there, onto the white spots. So her holster is also white, so that's good. I left that. And then, of course, the weapon, that blaster, is primarily blue with some silver and some black. So we'll get into that in just a second. So one of the easy ways to paint contrast is, and again, we're all about the easy, is once it's dry, is to dry brush over it. Now, on the screen, it looks a little more orangey than it does yellow. It is kind of orangey, but not as much as what you see on screen. And I think that's just because of the lighting in the room. It's close. It's not too far off. But that's okay, because once it dries, we're actually going to do some dry brushing with some brighter yellows, because the space yellow uniform is from what I've seen anyway in the reference photos, it's a very bright white, a very bright yellow. And this is obviously not a super bright yellow. If you remember back to when we painted Dino Thunder yellow, we also used the same kind of technique where we used this contrast yellow. So we're going to use the same concept here by painting her with, again, with a dry brush. So we just need to wait a couple extra minutes to make sure that that's nice and dry. The one thing you don't want when dry brushing is to dry brush over that model and it still be wet. We could start painting some of the other pieces, but that really makes zero sense because we're going to dry brush and it's going to get, kind of all over the model a little bit. So bear with me a second. I'll check the chat here. Let's see. Question. You have some of your painting videos on YouTube under Circle of Nerds, except White Dino Thunder and Astronema. So my Circle of Nerds channel is actually not... I don't have any of the Power Ranger videos from these streams. I do have painting guides on there for Power Rangers from my personal collection prior to when I started doing painting and stuff for Renegade. All of the Renegade streams, with the exception of, I think, the last couple, as you see there, they're behind on posting them, will be up on Renegade's YouTube channel. So definitely make sure you go and check that out. Okay. Few little wet spots I can still see, but we're definitely getting closer. Looking at her helmet, I can see that I did get yellow on the white that goes around the back here. These spots right here, these are normally white. There's lines that go on the top here and on the bottom there. But that's okay. That will not be a problem. Excuse me. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure that all of the yellow... Man, the yellow looks really, really nice. It's settling really nicely. The bottom part here from the belt under, completely dry already, which is nice. There is a small spot underneath her back leg here, which is still white. It looks like maybe paint didn't get there. I will just make sure to go a little bit heavier on the dry brush. So while we wait for that to dry, let's talk about dry brushing. The most important thing when it comes to dry brushing is to make sure that you're not using any of your nice paintbrushes. So I have my nice paintbrushes here off to the side. I definitely don't want to use them. So I'm going to go over to my my stuff. Somebody commented earlier on my shirt. I've been looking for a Power Ranger shirt for a while for these streams, and I finally found this one. I think I found it at Old Navy, if I'm not mistaken. So I have a cup here with a bunch of different older brushes. These are, I'll go back down to my table here. These brushes here are Army Painter Masterclass dry brushers, is what they're called. They were really expensive, and so I want to... expensive for me. I don't usually buy expensive brushes, except for like my main 1 or 2 brushes that I use. So for a dry brush, I was really hesitant to buy these, but I really wanted to test them out so I could let other people know my opinion. They're just okay. They're not great. Personally, I like the Games Workshop dry brushes. They look more like this. So this here... this is a small dry brush from Games Workshop. This is the large Army Painter. So here's the small Army Painter one. So you can kind of see the difference. An old makeup brush will work too. If you have a spouse or you yourself, have makeup brushes that they don't want anymore. We'll try both of these out, see which one gives us the better. I think it's going to end up being the Games Workshop one, but we'll see. We'll see. You also need something to rub the paint off with, so we need some paper towels. You could also use cardboard. I've seen people use cardboard. I've used cardboard before. But I find paper towels, especially paper towels that have a rough surface, that ends up working out best for me. And then, of course, we need our paint. So, trying to decide which yellow to use. I'm actually going to go into my scale color collection, which, you know, if you follow me on the channel, you know that I don't dip into those very often. Yeah, and I think we're gonna use this Soul Yellow. It seems to be quite a nice bright yellow. You could also, if you don't have access to scale 75, this is what I normally use, this Flash Gets Yellow. You can just see, or maybe you can't. It might be hard to see on camera. This is a little more orangey, whereas this is much brighter. So I'm going to go with that. And then I've got some Dorn Yellow. This is actually an edge highlighter. It is pretty close to white. I'm going to use that, I think, for some extreme stuff. I might do some edge highlighting, but we may just end up doing some dry brushing. We'll see. See what we have time for. Now, these Scale 75 paints, they take forever to stir. So I'm going to go ahead and use my paint stirrer. I've only seen you use Scale 75 once now, twice on the Space Silver. Yeah, that's true. I don't use it very often. I don't like it very much, which sucks because I spent a lot of money getting that imported over from the UK. But it is what it is. You live and you learn. Everybody swears by it. Master painters use it for competitions and stuff like that. It hasn't seemed to work out for me. I think I'm using it wrong. I've posted on some Facebook groups trying to ask people for tips, and I really haven't gotten anywhere with that. I'll eventually one day revisit them and figure out what it is that I'm doing wrong. At first, I thought it was my ability to shake them up really well because they are hard to stir. But then I bought the paint stirrer specifically for these paints, and I also bought some agitators. I think that's what they're called. The little glass balls that you put inside the container to help like mix it up. That didn't really make much of a difference either. So we'll see. We'll see how this ends up going. It's much more stirred now. Let's see how it looks on my palette. Normally, I wouldn't put paint on a palette for dry brushing because it's really pointless, but because you don't want it to be wet. So I'm going to try this brush here. We'll see how this ends up working. What paint stirrer do I use? It's a Lab Genius. Looks like... Let's see. I got to zoom this out. Looks like this. I think it's used for like medical, test tubes and stuff like that. But essentially, all you do is just hold the paint pot or whatever that you want to this and push down. And you can see it like vibrates and moves around, and you can only hold it for a few seconds because then your hand ends up going numb from holding it, but it actually works out really well. So And it fits conveniently right on my desk, so I don't have to do anything crazy. All right. The other thing about these brushes, these Masterclass Army Painter brushes, they are really difficult to clean. So I think I used this last on the yellow. All right, just making sure everything's nice and dry. So if you're brand new to painting and you have no idea what I'm doing, let me explain it to you. So this is called dry brushing. Essentially what you're doing is you are getting paint on your paintbrush. Again, make sure you're using an older paintbrush or a paintbrush that is specifically made for dry brushing. And you are going to get the whole thing full with paint, and then you're going to wipe off as much as you can onto like a paper cloth or something like that. And then you are essentially either rough or light, depending on how much paint you want to come off. You're going to brush onto the model, and all that leftover paint is going to come off onto the model, and that's called dry brushing. On this coat, I'm wanting to do it really heavy because this is the primary color that I want the model to be. When I do a highlight, then I want it to be much less. So I wouldn't, you see how hard I'm going with this. I wouldn't normally do that. I guess I need to bring this back down so you guys can see better, huh? What kind of price range was it? It's a good question. I want to say it was somewhere in the ballpark of $40, $40 to $50 US. So, not terrible. It was terrible for me at the time because I just spent hundreds on the Scale 75 paint. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to keep paying money just to use this paint. But I did. So whatever. And I may not use Scale 75 stuff much, but I use that paint stirrer every time I paint, so. Ooh! Model fell off my clip here. Really, the purpose of this is to get paint on the model, on the surface layers, not on the recess areas where you want your darker shades to live. So primarily you're going to want to dry brush after you have put a wash on your model. In this case, we did the, kind of both steps at once, so that's okay. Hopefully you can see how much brighter the model is getting. Do I want to become famous by followers? No, I don't think so. I don't think my wife would like me very much anymore if I was famous, so we'll just avoid that argument now. And this is enough fame for me. Alright, I could probably do this for like another hour, making sure that color is how I want it and where I want it. But this is good. And you can see now all of that stuff that was white now has, yellow on it. So kind of defeated our purpose a little bit, but that's all right. And that's dry brushing. Quite simple, easy to do. And that brush actually ended up working out not too terribly for me, so I still think that it's too expensive for what it does. You're better off just getting a go to like a drugstore and get a cheap makeup brush if you don't want to buy Games Workshop's ones. I think the Games Workshop ones are like $5 or $6. This master set of dry brushes, 3 dry brushes, it was like $29, $30 US dollars, so almost $10 a brush. Just not worth it in my opinion. But it worked today, so I'll let you make your own observation. All right. Get a new paper towel. And that scale 75 paint ended up working out nicely too, so that's good. I'm going to save that Dorn yellow for later. We'll use it as an edge highlight if we get to where we have time to do that. Right now I want to go back over the white with some... Where's my gray? There it is. With some Althuan gray. That's what we're going to use for to brighten back up our whites. Actually, maybe we should do black first. No, we'll do the white first. And then we'll come back to white again if we have to. I usually like to use Althuan gray as my white instead of straight white because the only thing about these paint droppers is I'm having the worst luck lately. It's like so... You can't see it because it's off camera, but... Huh. It ends up like drying a little bit at the top. It's really strange. Where is my... There it is, my airbrush thinner. Sometimes my Althuan gray looks darker. Maybe it's not stirred enough. It ends up having this blue. If you look here in the top, at the top of the screen, this is Althuan gray that was left over from last time we painted. This is fresh, and you'll see as it separates, it has some of that blue in it. That's because it's not white; it's actually gray, I guess. So you may need to stir it a little better. I'm not sure. Right now we're just going back over the white spots that were turned yellow by my dry brushing. If you have better control of your dry brushing than I do, or you use a smaller dry brush, it's all about time, so I had to go pretty quickly. Another alternative here on this step is if you wanted to, instead of using Althuan gray, you could use a paint pot version of your base color here, which was there are only grays, which is Wraithbone. So instead of using the Althuan gray at this step, you could use Wraithbone, which was the primer color. It's a little more of a eggshell white, a little more of an off-white. So that's also an alternative. as well. But I like using all through in gray. It is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Games Workshop colors. It just has so many purposes. One thing that you need to kind of keep in mind when you're using this method of painting of the contrast and then a dry brush is when you get to the step that I'm on now, which is reapplying the base color of white, or any base color for that matter, is it's hard to replicate the color, the yellow, basically. So, you know, you don't want to go quick here. Kind of want to take your time, because let's say, for example, I were to get white in a spot that's already yellow. It's going to be really difficult for me to get that color back, because, you know, we dry brushed, we use, you know, our contrast paints and stuff. So there reaches a time when you're doing like this step that I'm doing now, and you're like, oh man, I need to be extra careful. But mistakes do happen, and there is, you know, your model isn't totally ruined. There are a few things that you can do. I will go over those if that happens to me, and if it doesn't happen to me, I'll still go over them. I just don't want to talk about them right yet, because I don't want to jinx myself. And the light is creating a gnarly shadow underneath her armpit that I can't see. Let's see. Checking the chat. Quick question. Will any of these past episodes be uploaded on YouTube, or are they going to stay on Twitch? Yes, all of our past episodes are uploaded onto YouTube. The last couple weeks, we are a little bit behind. Not terribly behind. But they will all be up on YouTube. Renegade does a great job of making sure that those go up on YouTube. Oh, and then everybody answered the question for me. Yes, if you go on to youtube.com/Circle of Nerds, that is my personal YouTube channel. I do have some older Power Ranger guides for the original Mighty Morphin, a lot of the base box stuff, Alpha, also just some general tips and tricks. Throw me a sub over there. It really helps me out. And then, of course, everything that I do for Renegade is up on Renegade's channel, which is available as well. So Lots and lots of content to follow. It's so satisfying when you do reapply the white, because they're just, I mean, that white pops so nice on that yellow. It looks super, super good. Okay, and then the next seal is also white. Might need to switch to a smaller brush. Yep, I'm gonna switch to a smaller brush. So next week's stream will be Psycho Red. I'm really looking forward to that one. Red is a great color to paint, and the whole model is basically red on black, which is going to be, it's just a lot of fun. Those are great colors to paint with. And then we will finish out the series with Space Pink. And then I can box this up and send this off to Renegade for their prize. And then it's back to new models. New Power Ranger models and G.I. Joe. Who's excited for those G.I. Joe models? And I know I am. One thing that's also cool about this model is even though it's primarily yellow and white with some splashes of black, I got that chest piece with all those colors I get to paint too, which is pretty cool. This brush here, this is my new brush, and I am just so happy that I decided to go back to Winsor Newton instead of sticking with Raphael brushes, because this brush is just fantastic. Well worth the money. If you are just getting into painting, I will give you a piece of advice that was taught to me, and it's actually contrary to what a lot of other painters will tell you. Spring for one expensive brush. You don't have to get, every brush that you use does not need to be expensive. And it doesn't need to be top of the line, every brush. But a lot of people, you know, a lot of beginner teachers will say, oh, just go to the craft store and get a pack of brushes. And, you know, brushes, all brushes are not created equal, okay? And having a brush that will maintain its shape is just, there's nothing that you can do to replicate that as a skill, you know what I mean? I can't teach you a skill that will give you that. So I think that just having one really nice brush in your toolkit, maybe not right away, maybe not your first purchase, especially if you don't know if you're even going to like painting, but if you do enjoy painting and it's something that you think you could get into, I'm telling you, the difference between painting with a 99-cent brush and painting with a $20 brush is crazy. You can't do line work like that with a 99-cent brush. My personal recommendation is the Winsor Newton Series 7 number 0. You can use it for, everything from a base coat. Maybe not on smaller models, or maybe not on larger models like this. It would take me a while to do a base coat with that. But you can do eyes, just so many good things with that. So highly, highly recommend. And like I said, that's actually contrary to what a lot of, people will tell you. That a lot of people just say, start with cheap brushes, which is fine. But again, my first purchase, when I realized that this was something I wanted to do long term, was a nice brush. And I just can't go back now. And if you take good care of them, get yourself a nice brush cleaner, they can last you a long time. So it's not like you're paying $20, every time you paint with a nice brush. So that's all of our whites on there. It looks really good. I'm trying to find my photo that I just had open a minute ago for my for the weapon. I'm trying to see, because I know that there's some white on the weapon. Actually, maybe there isn't. It's silver now. All right. So let's go to the squares on the chest. Let's do that next. So it's black. Let's see, black, yellow, red, pink, and then blue. Stupid excited for them, Joes. Have you painted Cyclops yet? No, I have not painted Cyclopsis yet. Have you decided which one you're going to paint yet? Nope. I have not decided which Joe. Oh, I realized that I got to do her shoulders. Those are also white. I've not decided which Joe I'm going to paint yet. Or Cobra. Honestly, I need to sit down and look at reference photos of all the models that I was sent so that I can decide which model has like the most detail, or I think will be the most entertaining to watch be painted. Alright, that looks way better with those shoulders done now. Hoping you get to Kaya and Dana and Solosis Purple. So Solosis Purple, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the model that I'm painting for Renegade Con at the end of August. I'm painting one Joe model on Saturday and one Ranger model on Friday. And if I'm not mistaken, according to the schedule, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure, like 95% sure, that Solosis Purple is the model that I'm painting. Kaya, I'm not 100% sure which one that is, but I can tell you for a fact that Dana, I'm very excited about potentially painting, so that's cool. Alright, so I'm going to start busting out some of these colors that go on the chest. Wanting to paint Cyclopsis since I got him. It's my favorite monsters from the Rangers. Have all the references, but don't know how I want to approach him. Yeah, it's a big model. And the good thing is that it's not like the Megazord, right? Or even Goldar, where it's a ton of different colors. His color palette isn't very large, so there's not a ton that really goes into it. It's just a matter of getting started and then sticking with it. Because big models like that tend to wear you out. They're hard to get through. That's why I have not painted Mega Goldar yet. Is because painting all that gold, just the thought of it hurts my brain. This is not German gray. This is just black. There's a couple of different ways that you can approach these squares. One is to put the color in, and don't worry if you make mistakes, because you can cover up the mistakes with the white, or you can try and get those squares perfect the first time. I think I'm going to do a combination because I already kind of screwed up. That side one is kind of a pain. Violet Solar Ranger at the con, yep. That's... I love the con painting streams a lot. I've done quite a few of them now at this point. The one thing that that always makes me sad is that they're not longer. Whereas our weekly ones are an hour and a half, or our 2 hours, those are only an hour and a half. So lots more people usually in the audience for the con ones. Which means more chatting with the group, but it also means getting a whole model done is very challenging. Atomic, you don't need sleep. You can watch the stream. You don't need to sleep. You just have less sleep that day. Come on, man. You're young. How many times in your youth have you gotten less sleep than what you'll get that night if you watch the stream? I'm just yanking your chain. Are you still putting Ard coat on the helmet? Did I do that for the other ones? I can't remember. I think I did on the, on like that little black dome part. I don't think I did on the whole helmet. Because you want that black round dome thing to look shinier than everything else. I call it their little moon roof. You want their little moon roof to... Alright, so now that our colors are done, I'm just going to clean it up with this white now. Or Althuan gray, I should say. Responsible. Hashtag responsible parent. That is responsible parenting. Getting the mother-in-law to come over and watch the kids so that you can stay up late the night before and watch me paint Power Rangers. That is 100% what you call being a good parent. All right, we're gonna switch over to actually we'll keep going on this black here since I've got black out already. Let me get this a little closer for you guys. Right, exactly. How would you teach your kids about the glories of Power Rangers if you don't know the glories yourself because you were sleeping? Sorry, I'm not talking a lot. These two parts right here, with the eyes and the visor and the dome, the lines are very you basically need them to be perfect. So what was everybody up to the rest of this week? Anything exciting going on in your neck of the woods? Nothing super exciting going on here, at least not during the week. What color should I do next? I think we'll go into silver now. Actually, let's do some more blue. We'll start working on our blaster here. One thing that is strange about this particular model, curious as to seeing Joan Jett in concert on Thursday. That's exciting. Holy moly. One of the design choices. Yeah, He-Man Gameland launches tomorrow, you're right. And maybe you guys can let me know why, because maybe there's an actual reason. But it seems like the models that I'm seeing on, or the images that I'm seeing online, this blaster that is in her holster is actually a part of this like slingshot. Like the front of the slingshot should be a blaster. I haven't seen any reference photos where the blaster is separate from the slingshot part. So I'm wondering why that isn't true on this model. Why they decided to put the blaster in the holster like that. They do have a blaster, but I'm not sure if it's attached to the weapon. Yeah, the image that I'm looking at now, she's holding the blaster with her arm, with her, her right hand. She's holding the blaster, not the sling blade. and the slingshot is actually attached to the back of the blaster, and then she's pulling back on it. It's just interesting. I mean, that's how it seems like her weapon looks, is like this, almost like the slingshot comes out of the back of the gun, or the blaster. I don't know why I called it a gun, but not a huge deal. Just curious. If that's true, then I'm just wondering why they didn't just have the holster be empty like they do on a lot of the other Rangers. It may just be something that was overlooked as well. Okay, cool. It can be attached to the blaster, and then it becomes a booster mode. So it's not always attached to the weapon, or to the blaster, is what you're saying in the show. I'm trying to fill that. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Alright, guess it's just the images that I saw were all attached, so. But admittedly, I didn't look at every single image on Google, so. Alright, so let's bust out the silver. It's looking good so far. It was probably way too much silver. Way more than what I need. So this is Lead Belcher. Again, just remembering to be careful. We don't want to get paint on Especially anything that's yellow. Let's see here. This part is silver. When you're painting these, you can be as detailed or as not detailed as you want. I tend to go a little crazy on like the blasters, making them look as screen accurate as possible. That's not really necessary, especially since there's such a small detail on the model. I just go a little cray-cray. What kind of shows is everybody watching these days? I need a new show to watch with my wife. We finished Manifest. Wasn't a fan. Didn't really like that. We finished Good Girls, which we loved, but now found out that it is canceled. So that's a ginormous bummer when you find a show that you like and you watch all the seasons like we did, and then you find out that the network has canceled it. So thanks, NBC, for that. Trying to remember what else we've been watching. I've been reading the Harry Potter books for the first time. And then when I finish a book, which it takes me a couple months to finish a book, because I don't read, like, I do read every day, but I don't read, I read, you know, maybe a chapter or half a chapter, basically just to help me fall asleep at night. And these books are getting progressively longer, so it takes me a little while to finish a book. But once I finish a book, we go back and we watch the movie. Now, I've seen all of the movies, but I've never read all of the books. So I like this trend of watching or reading the book, and then immediately after that, watching the movie so that I can see why the books are better, basically. So yes, we've been doing that. So we watched the Goblet of Fire yesterday, because that was the last book that I finished. So I'm on to Order of the Phoenix now, which is book 5, I think. Yeah, 5. So that's cool. It's something fun for me to do, and then get the fam involved when they watch the movie with me. I basically spend the whole time pointing out how it's different. And really, like, in my opinion, the books have done the movies did a fantastic job so far of capturing the books. I would say that not Half-Blood Prince, listen to me. I'm already, like, 10 books ahead. Goblet of Fire so far has been, in my opinion, the most different from the book. There were a lot of differences in the movie than the book, which is interesting, because so far that's been my favorite book. So I realize you hadn't asked me that, but no, I've told you. But yeah, I need a new show, man. Superman and Lois Yeah, that's not really our cup of tea. Not really superhero show fans anymore. We used to when they first started. Um, Now it's just they've gotten to be a little monotonous. We like crime shows or whodunits, things that like surprise you in the end, or where each episode leaves you off on like a huge cliffhanger. Stuff with good acting, things like that. Um, just started watching Rebels. Yeah, that's a. I'm gonna end up watching that by myself. If you haven't watched The Bad Batch, that's very good. I'm all caught up on that. Mostly because I do a podcast about it. But right now we're watching The Outer Banks, which is on Netflix. It's okay if you like, those kind of shows, I guess. Honestly, most of the time when we watch TV, I'm on my Switch, and my wife is watching TV, and I'm like, "What happened?" In between my matches, she's got to tell me what happened. Need to get some gold for that belt buckle. Oh, I was like, where the heck did my gold go? And then I remembered it's right here. So we'll use Lead Belcher for the gold. Pretty standard gold choice. Remember that I've already painted quite a few of... Oh no, I'm all about that Pokemon Unite. I'm all over it. I'm over 200 matches in now. I hit veteran rank, I think. That's veteran. Goes beginner, great, and then something else, and then the one I'm in. I think it's veteran. Or maybe veteran was the one after great. So maybe it's beginner, great, veteran, and then whatever one I'm in. I'm in the fourth ranked tier. I think there's 7 total, and I'm like halfway up now. So, yeah, I'm all about that game. Alright. So all the base colors are done. We still have a ton of time. So, I'm going to start working on the base only because getting that yellow on the top of the base there, which is what I've been doing for all of the... No, I haven't been. I've been doing a rim. So that actually, that base is going to be black and the rim is going to be yellow. But we are not done with the model, so just bear with me. I am going to go and bust out that Dorn yellow and start doing some extreme highlights. But really try and make this model pop since we've got the time for it. Right now I'm just transferring the... I'll be playing a Power Ranger game soon. Awesome. Alright. So what color do we need? We need black. Once again, way too much. That's one thing that I'm really bad at, is being conservative with my paints on the surface of the model there, or on my palette, I should say. So much paint. And the reason that I'm doing this now and not waiting until the end, if you remember last week when we were doing this, it took like 10 coats to get a nice color on the top. And we didn't really have time to wait for each coat to dry because we waited to do this step until the end. So I'm going to do it now. That way we don't have that problem. Also, Ranger's top color, rim black, and Psycho's top color, nope, the other way around. See? And the reason that I did it that way is since the model has so much color on it already, you just do the Ranger color on the rim as more of an accent. So you're not detracting, you're not taking away from, you know, the brightness of the Ranger color. Of course, this model's got to be kneeling. Getting around the leg without getting black paint on it. See, I got black on her foot. Darn it. Alright. Let that dry. I'm gonna put that clear coat on the top, like Ranger Fan 30 wanted us to do. So I'm gonna put a little bit of Ard coat on that. On that dome. The camera is so close to my table that, like, when I stand the model up on the stand, it's like right in your face. So it's hard to paint the top because I'm having to go at it like from the top down. So that's why it's all like discombobulated looking. All right, back to Althuan Gray to fix that boot. I had mentioned earlier that there was a way to redo that contrast paint if you did screw up, and I was saving it in case I did. But knock on wood, it doesn't look like I did, or that's going to happen, hopefully. So one thing that you can do if you get a color on your contrast paint after the fact, yes, it's Ard coat only on the you know, the little windshield or the sunroof, basically, of the or moonroof of the helmet, just to give it a little bit of shine and differentiate the difference between that and the visor. I've done that on all of the Space Rangers that I've painted so far. As a matter of fact, I've got silver here, and you can kind of see how it's got that extra shine on the dome. So yeah, little dome moon roof thing. I don't know what to call it, but so yeah, so you've screwed up on the contrast paint, and you're wanting to fix it. So couple things that you can do. One, if you have a paint color that is, in your opinion, close to the paint color of the contrast paint, you can just go over it. In this case, this yellow, in my opinion, is pretty unique. It's not like any paint colors I particularly have, but there are some conversion guides out there that will tell you what paint colors are similar to other paint colors. So you could go that route. Some are easier than others, but it is possible. Especially like what we did with the dry brushing. It shouldn't be too terrible. The other thing that you can do, and most common, and what I would recommend, is to paint over the spot, or the whole piece. So let's say I got something on the skirt here. I could paint over the entire skirt with my base color, which again was Wraithbone, and they do sell it in pots. So I always make sure that I have a... Hold on, I'm trying to grab it. That's not it. So I have the spray on hand, or the pot on hand, so I can go over the entire thing again with this, let it dry, and then reapply my my contrast paint. That's a really simple way of fixing issues that you or mistakes that you've made. I do that all the time. So, do you spray a protective coat on your minis after you finish painting them? It 100% depends on the miniature. It depends on if I plan to play with the miniature or if it's for display purposes. Most of my Rangers are for display purposes, so I do not, I don't typically use an overcoat spray. But something like an army for a miniatures game that I'm playing, I do use Tester's Dull Coat on most of the models that I do spray. In this case, this model is not for me. This is for someone else that I'm painting. And so when I send it to them, I will send it to them unprotected, and I'll put a note in there that the models have been painted, but they have not been protected. That way I'll let that person decide. If they want to just display them, it looks better unprotective coated, if that makes sense, than it does if you put the spray on it. So if the person that I'm sending it to just wants to display it, I don't want to take away from the paint job by putting a spray on it. Does that make sense? I said spray like 100 times, I feel like. So it just depends for me. If I'm entering something in a contest, in a painting contest, then I also will not spray it. I usually just put it in some kind of a protective case. Again, because no matter what spray you use, it will have some kind of an effect on the paint job. So. And I should demonstrate that. Next time I get a chance, I will paint a couple putties, and I'll overspray one of them, and I won't on the other. And then on stream, I'll show you guys the difference so you can see. If I played Power Rangers all the time, it was always hitting the table, I would absolutely overcoat everything. And some of my miniatures from Power Rangers are overcoated. Stuff from my personal game, my personal copy, Rangers that I use a lot. When I do play, they do have a coat on them. But the ones that don't get used, or the ones that aren't from my personal collection, I don't put a spray over them. Right now, I am trying to let that dry before I hit it with another. Alright, I'm going to have to hit that yellow again with another coat, but while I let it dry, let's do some edge highlighting. So we're going to take this Dorn Yellow. This is from Citadel. It is an edge highlight paint. What does that mean? It basically just means that the paint is super thin. It's already been thinned down. I'm not going to have to thin it down anymore. Normally, I wouldn't even put it on my palette, but I will for this just so that I have a little bit more control. And like I said, it's quite bright. It's going to look a little brighter probably on your screen than it is on mine, but we will see. Well, I guess that's about, if you can see what I can see. I love this color. Finding a highlight color for yellow is tough because yellow only gets so bright before it becomes white. This color kind of checks them boxes for me, so. In this step, you really just want to be gentle and slow with it. Finding spots that are raised or that you want to bring out extra highlights with. If you use yellow a lot, highly recommend this color, this paint. I'm basically going to the folds of her uniform and putting an extra little this step. Another thing too, less is more. You don't need a lot of these highlights to make things pop. So don't look at every fold in the uniform and be like, man, I need to put a line there. Because you just don't. I gotta admit, this is kind of cool because we rarely on this channel get to this step, this highlighting step, because we're usually so rushed for time at this point, trying to get, base colors done. But because this particular model has such few base colors, and not to toot my own horn, but I've become quite efficient, I guess you could say, at painting these Space Rangers, because I've done so many of them now, that it allowed us time to do some edge highlights, which is quite nice. Like I said, we usually do not get to this step. got really quiet. Either I've bored you or you're watching intently. This step in particular would be probably, I would say, most affected by an overspray. If we were going to overspray the model, it would really, really detract from. These details that we've just added, because they would fade so much into it. Kind of like blends the paint jobs together. So like, if I'd have done extreme highlights over the whole model and I looked at it in the end and I was like, man, that's just too much highlighting, putting that dull coat over top of it would be a really good way of minimizing that without having to repaint the model. But I'm quite happy with the way that it turned out, so I definitely don't want to do that. And you can see like these splotches and stuff that are on the yellow. This is what I said in the very beginning of the episode, or of the stream, was how yellow is such a pain in the butt to paint. Now you're seeing why. This is like the 5th coat of yellow that I've put on here, and you can still see splotches of that undercoat underneath it. So really, painting yellow with that contrast paint like we did is invaluable, because yellow is just such a tough color to paint with. For this reason, like, you're just seeing how many coats it's going to take to cover all those splotches up. Pretty much everywhere all the way around looks okay, I guess, except for like these areas here, which you can still see. So I'm going to have to go back over those again in just a second. Looking at my reference photos, I am seeing a little bit of silver on the weapon that I want to add. It's not necessary, but since we have the time, and I'm really into this paint job right now, I think it looks really, really good. I'm going to go ahead and add it. It's just to the fins here of this slingshot, it looks like. And I apologize for the angle. It's I think that looks pretty sweet until I got paint silver where I didn't want it. Laser focused. Everybody's laser focused. Me too. just added like some detail here to make it. Hers doesn't go up quite as far. It's a little bit thinner, but I kind of got paint where I didn't want it, and that's all right. I just want to make it look a little more detailed. Cool. Yeah, it looks good. Let's see. Almost there. Almost there. This was such a fun model to paint. Way more fun than I anticipated. You always get kind of nervous when you're painting a color like yellow or white. Almost detracts a little bit from, unless it's like your favorite character or something like that. Anytime I paint a White Ranger Tommy, I'm never really worried about painting the white, just because that's my favorite character, so I'm always excited. But thanks, Bone Shooter. Appreciate the comment and the compliment. So still, you can see that black undercoat on a couple of spots on the back there. On that yellow, it's crazy, isn't it? Yellow, I'm telling you, it's horrible. Ooh, almost dropped the model in the paint. That would have been bad. So we learned a lot this stream. We talked about contrast paints, specifically yellow contrast paints. We did some dry brushing and some edge highlighting, as well as we used that ard coat for the shine. We talked about overspraying and so many other things. What else did we talk about? I can't even remember. Would using the contrast paint around the rim work to cover the black better? Maybe. Did I do color between the black and the yellow? I found pink works well. I did not. Another color that you could do is a light brown. I have heard that light brown works well with yellow, as opposed to just straight black. For this particular rim here, we're using scale 75. Overall, though, the model turned out really, really well. Looking next to, it's hard to see it on the camera, but the Space Ranger is a brighter yellow, and we got those edge highlights in there, so it makes it look even better than the Dino. I'm going to, let's see, is that dry? It's dry. Let's just do one more, and then we're just going to call it good. All right, gang. She looks mighty fierce. I like that view right there. Right down the slingshot. I'm assuming it's a slingshot. It's probably not. It's probably like a space fork or something like that. But it sure looks like a slingshot to me. Hopefully you can see. Let's see if I can get... you can get a little bit better of a look at those edge highlights. Moonroof and Space Fork, yep. Space Fork, that's the Space Fork, and that's the Moonroof. She turned out great. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me on this stream. You know there's nowhere else that I would rather be on these Mondays. Shout out to, you know, Old Navy for me finding this cool shirt there. I'm pretty sure it was Old Navy. I walked up with it in my hand, and my wife was like, why do you have a Power Ranger shirt? Because I'm mostly, 9 times out of 10, I'm wearing some kind of graphic t-shirt. You know, and she's like, you don't need any more t-shirts. And I was like, but I don't have a Power Rangers t-shirt for my live stream. And she was like, okay, that's fine. Because usually the rule is if I buy a new graphic tee, I have to throw a graphic tee away. It's like 1 for 1. I can't just have like 35 graphic t-shirts. So like I have to spread them out, right? So if I want like a new Power Ranger one, I need to either get rid of another one or my old Power Ranger one. So like I've only got like 1 Star Wars shirt and 1... Actually, no, I have like 4 Star Wars shirts. I only have 1 Power Ranger shirt now. But anyway, that's kind of the rule in our house, 1 for 1, because otherwise I would just have a million shirts that I never wear, because when I see one that I like, I buy it. Anyway, as always, thank you to Renegade for having me on these streams. There's nowhere else that I would rather be. I love being here with you. I appreciate them for allowing me to do this. This is a dream come true, so thank you to them. If you have never seen any of my content before, you're brand new to this, thank you for tuning in. You can find more of my specific content, youtube.com/circleofnerds, one word. Go and give us a subscribe. We do a Star Wars related podcast. I also have gaming reviews, painting videos, all kinds of really good stuff. Throw a sub over there. It means the world to me and to my group. This was a lot of fun. Next week, we will be getting into this guy right here. I need to make sure that I give him another spray so we don't have any issues like we did last time. But this is the Red Psycho Red Ranger. What else? I guess that's it. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. And remember, play your games. I'll see you later. Bye.